What's up, everybody? It's Candy, and I'm coming to you with a requested video from one of my subscribers. Whether I believe that racism still exists even after the election of President Obama. These comments are being monitored before being put in the public domain, so please keep that in mind as you leave your comments. So, on to the meat and potatoes. President Obama is an outlier. The statistics will show overwhelmingly that in education, income, employment, health, and politics, and in the criminal justice system, that there is a stark disparity in the achievements and the opportunities for African Americans in America. So, Barack Obama being elected as president is a flat out outlier in the situation. And a lot of people use that as a way of saying that racism doesn't exist to kind of invalidate some of the data and some of just the personal sentiment of racism still existing. Or if we are going to say that each and every vote in favor of Barack Obama demonstrates how people are no longer racist. If we use that argument, then we are also saying that every vote that was not for Barack Obama was illustrative of people voting against him because he was black. And therefore, every one of those votes means that racism still exists. As a matter of fact, studies show that 60% of whites still have negative and racist views against blacks, that blacks are lazy, that they're more prone to violence, and that they're less intelligent. 5 out of 6 blacks don't even receive welfare, and an overwhelming majority of poor blacks don't receive welfare. How do you explain that if blacks are so lazy and they only want welfare? A large number of people were voting for Barack Obama because they believe that he, quote unquote, transcends race. But that actual phrase, transcending race, is premised upon a racist ideology that being black is wrong, that there is a being black that is negative, that is unfavorable, that is unappealing, and that it is something to be avoided, and that because Barack Obama has avoided displaying the stereotypical black behavior, that they were comfortable enough to vote for him because he was different than most blacks. But let's make something abundantly clear as well. A lot of people voted for him not only because they thought he was different, but also because they realized that their own racism, their own ignorance was not benefiting them economically and politically speaking. And they had to actually put down their racist beliefs in order to advance their own economic interests. So the fact that 60% of whites are holding this still negative belief, and although they know that Barack Obama is black, they think he's different, and so they're willing to vote for him. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that racism has just put on a different face. It's become more subtle, and they simply cannot accept diversity. They want the diversity to be there on the surface, but they don't necessarily want to truly accept all of that person and see the value in that person. Now, let's just say that flat out they voted for him because they thought he was a great person, it has nothing to do about him being black. If that's the case, and if that is a signal that racism doesn't exist, then tell me why there are so many disparities in education, income, employment, health, politics, all of the things that have a lot to do with socioeconomic status to this very day. A lot of people want to say that blacks' economic attainment and accomplishments has nothing to do with the opportunities that will ensue for them and their children afterwards. And if that was the case, then tell me why people are wasting their money on sending their kids and spending all this money to private schools in the suburbs. Tell me why people are wasting all their money on sending their children to Ivy League schools that cost 10 times the amount of a community college. If money was not an issue and that it has everything to do with your own personal motivation, no matter what you started off with, why are you wasting your money? And why is it that people are not trying to, at least in good faith, give the same opportunities to other people? Private school is expensive, it is unaffordable for the low income, and they are not trying to open their doors by any other means to bridge that gap. Private schools is another separate but equal system. Now, whites live in low income neighborhoods too, and yet they are able to still pull themselves up in the bootstraps, but that is because of white privilege that exists in other places in society. For example, if you look at a resume and it says John Smith versus Laquan Wilson, who do you think they're going to interview? Studies show that it's the John Smith and not the Laquan Wilson. That trickles down to employment opportunities and then the income that they will be able to raise for their family. And then that determines where they live and how much they pay in property taxes and where they send their kids to school, and therefore the opportunities that will ensue from then on out. Okay. Um, why is there still such a disparity in the criminal justice system when whites are even more likely than blacks to be caught with drugs or other illegal substances or objects or items once they are being stopped and searched during any kind of routine traffic stop? So let me reiterate. Barack Obama is simply an outlier in the overall big picture of the inequalities that still exist. When we really look at the data, we realize that Barack Obama was elected because white people viewed him as being different than the typical black person. And therefore, they were willing to accept him because their own economic interests were outweighing the racist interests of them just simply having a white person in office. So we can't really use that as a marker of any kind of progress that we've made as far as racial injustices or racism in America. What we really need to look at is the data as it pertains to education, income, employment, politics, health, and criminal justice. Thanks again for your video request, and as always, love and blessings.